I wanted to read the book before seeing the movie. The Houses Fly. Moving on. Hello friends, and welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Lena, and this is where I talk about life and art and books, but really mostly books. I wanted to talk about some books that feel like spring. So some of these books are books that I love to go back to and reread in spring, and others are books that I am planning to read for the first time this spring. So I've got kind of two lists here. It has just been the week of spring break for me, which is always kind of, it's called spring break, but a lot of times it feels pretty wintry. But today, on the second to last day, the sun is out, the sky is blue, can hear the birds chirping. I'm ready to take a walk with Harvey Fox soon and just enjoy the fresh air and seeing all of the little buds come out and things like that. So it's just starting to feel like it's really that magical time of year where the earth is waking back up. And I love spring and autumn. Those are my two favorite seasons. And really for me, I feel like summer is like an extension of my spring feelings, and then winter is an extension of my autumn feelings. So I always feel fresh and renewed in those transitional seasons of spring and autumn. And I don't think I've made a video before of my actual spring recommendations, so I thought, why not do it this year? This sounds great. So I wanted to start with books that I go back to in the springtime as rereads. So kind of like my comfort reads for spring. Let me see where to start with these. A lot of these are classics that just for whatever reason I associate with spring, or they take place in spring, or just they give me that overall springtime feeling. They're not all classics though, but I'll start with the classics. The first one is, of course, Pride and Prejudice. I read this when I was younger, but didn't have a very clear memory of it, and I reread it last spring, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. I definitely want to read another Jane Austen this spring, and so if you have a recommendation on one that would be another really good springtime read, would love recommendations, because I've only read Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility. Those are the only two that I've read so far. Oh my goodness, I just fell completely in love with Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy and just this whole world that Jane Austen was able to create. I just thought it was so lovely. The movie adaptation with Keira Knightley, I know that we all are such huge fans of it, but that's like a springtime comfort movie for me as well. So I definitely highly recommend this one if you haven't read it yet, or if it's been a while since you've read this one. One that I read 2 years ago, I believe, for the first time was Middlemarch by George Eliot. I loved this book, and I really need to go back because I was annotating it at first and then I stopped. It was almost like I was getting so into it that annotating was taking me out of it somehow. And I just remember, oh my goodness, absolutely loving this story. It was a lot to tackle. It's a big book, so if you want a story that you can be in for a good chunk of time and just really be embedded in, then this is a great one to spend your time with this spring. In this particular adaptation, on the inside, it has a little blurb that says, Middlemarch contains all of life, the rich and the poor, the conventional and the radical, literature and science, politics and romance, but above all, it gives us a vision of what lies within the human heart. And I just think that sums it up so perfectly. I love this story so much. Spilled my coffee, but it's all cleaned up now, so we're good. Moving on. Another one is Anne of Green Gables. I know this is on everybody's list for springtime all the time, so it's not a new recommendation, but I really love the Audible version of the audiobook that is read by Rachel McAdams. It is my go-to spring cleaning listen. And so I just started re-listening to it recently while I'm cleaning around the house. And oh gosh, the descriptions of nature are so beautiful in this. And Anne is just so dreamy and just filled with so much wonder. She's just like one of like the most lively written characters that I feel like I've ever read, and I just love her so much. So another classic that I love reading this time of year is A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. It is a play. So if you have not done a lot of Shakespeare study, I think that this is a really easy one to start with. And you know, it's all about these young lovers and these mischievous fairies and the trouble that ensues with that. And so it's just, I know it says midsummer, but to me it just gives like this mossy green springtime flower blooming feeling. So I love to read it this time of year, and I love to read it in summer as well. But this one I feel like is kind of like, you know, one of the original mischievous fairy stories. So two others that I have read that I highly recommend for springtime that are not classics are Sweet Bean Paste. This is a Japanese translated work, and it follows kind of these two characters from very different backgrounds that really find comfort in their friendship with one another, and it all takes place during cherry blossom season. Well, maybe not all of it, but it comes back to cherry blossom season again and again, and they kind of like symbolically play like a large role in the book. And this makes me think of spring every time. And I've read it twice. I love it, love it, love it so much. There's just something about these characters that just feel like home to me. So, and if you're looking for something lighter, a graphic novel, I highly recommend the Bug Boys series. This is the third one in the series, but these graphic novels, they follow two boy bugs that are best friends and the adventures that they go on, and like all of the story is kind of like short little blurbs, and so it'll be like, it's almost like short stories within like adventure after adventure. I just have so much fun with this one. This one's such a comfort to me. I think that the illustrations in it are so lovely. I just think that the illustration style is beautiful. And I feel like this one's more colorful than the first two, but I don't know if that's true or not. But this series I highly recommend for just like a comfort book to go back to. So those are the books that I have read that I love to go back to again and again in the springtime. And there are probably more, but these are the ones that came to mind initially. And now I'm going to talk about the books that I plan to read this spring, which I am very excited about. I'll start with, because I think I only have one classic, like true classic on the list, and that is The Wind in the Willows. I love an anthropomorphic animal story where they are you know, walking and talking and acting as humans do, and so I don't think there's very much in the world that's cuter than that. So I'm sure that I will really enjoy this story, and it's been on my mind a lot because my mom is currently costuming a production of The Wind in the Willows, and so sometimes she'll ask me for a fabric to select or that kind of thing, and you know, she'll give me like a little bit of the story, and I'm like, what? That happens in The Wind of the Willows? What? This book sounds so fun. So this is one that I definitely want to dive into soon. On the note of classics, two that are kind of like a little different take on reading a classic are the graphic novels for Anne of Green Gables and The Secret Garden. I really love graphic novels this time of year. I just like, they're so light and you can just like spend your afternoon with them, and like they wrap up so quickly that like it feels like you've had like quality time with a story. And so, and obviously I love beautiful artwork. I'm an art teacher, so art always speaks to me. So I am definitely looking forward to those two. And another graphic novel that is on my list is Pileo of the Woods. And I don't even remember when I acquired this one, but my goodness, are the illustrations so beautiful and earthy. Willow, and she meets a little tree spirit named Pileo, and I think they go on lots of adventures, and it just sounds like it is so cute. And I just like love like that wreath that's on the cover, and the way that Pileo is illustrated with her green hair with her leaves in her hair and things like that. I feel like whenever I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons, that's always how I picture my character's hair. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to know this character. So I'm excited for that one. Another book that is on my list, this is the second book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series, and I actually just read this one yesterday. So it was sitting in my stack and I just couldn't resist it any longer, and I read it all in one sitting, which is always easy to do. They'll be made up of 4 stories from the cafe, and this one takes place in spring, which I didn't realize, but for whatever reason it was calling to me. And so I don't know, it was just really nice that I picked it up and I read it, and once again just felt so much for these characters, felt so much in these little stories. The author, Toshikazu Kawaguchi, is able to just pack so much intimacy into such a short amount of time in their writing. It's just, I love it so much. I love it, love it, love it. The other book that I am currently reading that I just started is one that is always on people's spring recommendation list, and it is Howl's Moving Castle. I am one of the few people in the world who have never seen the movie, and I know people say that the movie and the book are very different, and I wanted to read the book before seeing the movie because I think a lot of people tend to prefer the film version, and so I wanted to read the book first and feel it as someone being newly exposed to the story instead of comparing it to the movie, and then watch the movie after. I'm only 5 chapters in, about 100 pages, but oh my goodness, I'm really loving it. I really love Sophie's character, and the situation that she's finding herself in right now is well, just a lot of trouble, and so I'm just really interested to see where this story goes and how it unfolds. But again, it's one of those that has really beautiful descriptions of nature so far. Like, I've just really felt so comforted and cozy in this space. So I'm really loving reading it. And I'm probably going to try and like really slowly take my time with it. The next one that is on my list has been on my shelf for a minute, and it is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I had talked about A Midsummer Night's Dream and Fairies for springtime, so it makes sense that this is another one that comes to mind for me, and I feel like I've seen it on other people's recommendation lists. I think more from like the perspective of, hey, I've read this, you should read it too. Yeah, I guess I couldn't tell if it was going to be more of a springtime book or an autumn book. And when I'm looking at it, the diary entries in it are like October through December. So I think maybe it is more of like an autumn read, and I had intended to read it in the autumn and just like ran out of time. But that has me wondering if, oh, well, the sequel, Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands, I was wondering if maybe this one takes place in the springtime, but no, it doesn't. It takes place in September. So maybe I will read these this spring, but maybe I'll save them for fall. I'm not sure. So if you've read these and you have a recommendation for the time of year that you would prefer to go on this adventure for the first time, please share. I would love your input on that. So either way, I will be reading them very soon, and I am looking forward to it. This is another, I think this is a middle grade. Yep, ages 8 to 12. And so this is probably one that I will go to after Howl's Moving Castle is done. I don't know, something about middle grade and springtime I really love. So, but Some Kind of Happiness by Claire Legrand. It's about a little girl, Finley, who like imagines this forest kingdom, and she like dreams about it all the time, and I think she ends up like going into the forest and like finding the kingdom for real, and so she's kind of like escaping some of the troubles in her life by going to this forest kingdom. And I don't know, something about that sounds very adventurous. Time in the forest sounds like spring to me, so I love that. I'm sure that there'll be lessons on how to handle those tougher moments in life. So, and I also think the cover is just so, I don't know, something about that just really draws me in. The next one is a romance, and that is the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. I think that it's a romance. According to my friend Katie, this is like a really wild adventure. I don't know. The houses fly, I guess. Like they're kind of like pirates, but they fly houses instead of sail ships. I don't know exactly. It's definitely got that historical Regency kind of like era to it. So I think that it's one that just kind of we naturally associate with springtime. I don't know, it just seems like lighthearted and fun. And so I definitely want to jump into this one at some point. A couple that I've had on my shelf for a while, and I'm showing you both of them because this is book 1 and then book 2. And when I see book 1, I think of springtime. It's got like on the back, it's got like birds and strawberries, and it's about like these, I don't know, these 3 little spirits of the forest that need to go on an adventure. Yeah, 3 little people wake from their winter sleep in an old ash tree. Moss, Burnet, and Cumulus usually love spring, but their joy turns to worry when they discover that Cumulus is starting to fade away. And so this just looks like it will be really lovely. And again, it's another one of those middle grade stories. So definitely one that I'd love to have as a comfort book. And then the sequel to it looks very much like it is an autumn read. So I'd love to read this one this spring and then read this one in the autumn. Another book that I have on my shelf that I would love to finally get to is The Lost Spells, which is actually a collection of illustrated poetry, but the illustrations are just so lovely, so beautiful. And so I really think like reading it now when it's that time where like you're feeling like spring, but maybe nature hasn't totally caught up with that feeling yet. Feels like the perfect time because there is just such beautiful imagery. I don't know, I've been saving this one for a while and it feels like it's time. And then my last 2 books are nonfiction, and I actually have read both of these because they are both super quick reads. But it is The Little Book of Cottagecore Traditional Skills for a Simpler Life. This is very basic. It talks about like candle making and quilting, harvesting your own herbs, gardening, just these different things that are considered very cottagecore and things that you can kind of make a hobby out of and like really pour yourself into. There's like tea making and soap making and stuff like that. And some of the things were really basic to me because they were things that I already knew how to do, but other ones were new. And so it made me want to try cross stitching. I'm still very intimidated. I haven't really done any real traditional cross stitching, and it also made me interested in quilting, so I'm gonna have to ask my mom some questions about that. And then the last one is Goblin Mode, and goblins definitely make me think of springtime. How to get cozy, embrace imperfection, and thrive in the muck. Oh my goodness, I loved this so much. And if you are trying to decide between these to get, I would definitely recommend Goblin Mode. Like there's literally sections on goblin pets. There's like a section on different bugs that you can have as pets, which I'm like, oh my gosh, a bug for a pet. I want that so bad. I love bugs. Different creatures. There's frogs and snakes and snails and more kind of unusual pets. Low maintenance plants, creating mossy atmosphere at home, and ways to just be like really cozy in your everyday life. And I don't know, it just like, it did a lot for my spirit. It made me feel so good. So I highly recommend Goblin Mode. So there you have it. I'm sure there are lots of books that I've missed that in the coming days I'll think, oh, I should have mentioned that in my video, but there's a decent stack here to start with. Whether you are in the mood for classics or graphic novels or romance, hopefully there is something on this list that calls to you and makes you feel like it is springtime and you are waking up and coming back into the world too after hibernation season has come to an end. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you haven't, please like and subscribe. I would love to see more of you. And if you have recommendations on books that you love for springtime or that you're planning to read this spring, drop it in the comments. I always love seeing your guys' recommendations and seeing what you guys are reading and what you're up to. I hope that you are enjoying this beautiful time of year, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!